Checking in already early, Bob Walker in North Texas, Chris Exley in Salem, Massachusetts, Graham Sweeney up in Scotland, Pedro Foiling Sailor, he's going to join ladies at a meeting at the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. Oh, that sounds fancy. Joe Cool, Lower Sherman Lake, Twin Rivers, mouth of the Delta. Hello, Joe. Alistair Murray, Mr. President Emeritus. Checking in from Metung, his holiday house, just finished the Etchells Nationals in Australia. Ted Ryman in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa. As we get show number 780.
Good morning.
God dang, Julia. Across the proverbial starting line. Welcome. Cannot talk today, Julia. Show 780. You can see it right there on the slide in the upper left corner. Hi, everybody. Friday the 5th. Friday? It's not Friday. It's Tuesday. The graphics department messed that up. We got so much going on today. It's great to be here again in Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club. It's not Friday the 5th. It's Tuesday the 5th. Curtonicism is afoot, Julia.
That's because you're all mixed up with Election Day.
Election Day. If we were in Japan, it would be?
Erection Day.
Tier DeYoung in SoCal. Chris Fury. John Emmett. Andy Cox in Bermuda. Andy, was good to have you on the show along with James Pleasance on Friday, which really was Friday, last Friday.
Yes.
Chris Fury is greetings from Melbourne. They're recovering from the Melbourne Cup festivities. Melbourne Cup is also on the 5th of November. It took place. It's, of course, the 6th down there now. It is Wednesday the 6th. Here it is Tuesday the 5th, not Friday. It is show number 780, not 779, but in show 779, which was last Friday, the 1st. We want to thank James Pleasance and Andy Cox, who joined us live from the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club. Julia, that was a lot of fun having those gentlemen on, was it not?
It was. Yes, it was a great day.
And you liked that show. You thought that was one of our best shows ever.
I did.
Or so you said.
I did feel that way because it was happy all the way. It had about 15 different subjects and about 10 really good guests. And
10 guests? I don't know about that. Jody Shields, speaking of Japan, where it's Erection Day. Jody's in Kyoto. Mm-hmm. He is in Kyoto in Japan. Hello to you, Jody. Let's carry on here and talk about some sad news. This from our Fozy Monica Diaz in Spain. Now, these are some photos from a few days ago. Bloody hell. The flooding in and around Valencia has been epic. And of course, notwithstanding this happens, it happened back in the 50s, it happened in the 60s. They diverted that river called the Turia, which runs down the middle of Valencia, because it used to flood and it would dry up and get muddy and awful, mosquitoes and so on. They diverted that out through the rice fields out on the south kind of east side of town. But they have some other infrastructural problems, obviously, because look at just
sad.
Look at this.
Yeah.
And again, this is outside of Valencia, but in the pueblos, particularly up in the hills and to the southeast side, it has been a mess, a big, muddy mess. These photos courtesy of CNN World. This, guess who?
I don't know.
That is His Majesty. He's a sailor.
Oh.
His Majesty King Felipe the Sixth.
Yeah.
And they were throwing mud and eggs at him and the Queen when he was visiting there a few days ago. And sadly, it's still a mess. Indeed, you look at this. This came in this morning from one of our Fozy who was exiting Bermuda. This is from Mark Wharton Reed. Mark Reed. That was his departure yesterday. It was a Noah's Ark experience. Have a look at this.
Wow.
That's not Mark, but he's taking this video, I assume. Or maybe it's off of one of the television channels. But man, what a mess.
Oh.
Si a alguien le apetece hoy venir a nadar al aeropuerto, aquí tenemos una piscina.
Aeropuerto.
Oh, that's
Hmm?
that's really terrible.
Oh, this courtesy of Mark Reed, and this is still going on. That's at the Barcelona airport yesterday, as he was leaving to come back to the States finally after the Cup. Look at that. So the rain continues. Monica Diaz, thanks for sending through those pictures to all of you in Spain. We're really sorry what you're going through, but it's not the first time. It does happen. And of course, the rainy season continues now through, tell me when, February, March. Weather Illustrated, John Emmett is saying, yes, indeed. But Julia, we lived there for 10 years.
Yes.
Leslie, Meg, and myself. And the rain in Spain does not necessarily stay mainly on the plain. They've had a drought in the southeast, Valencia, Barcelona, for the last X many years now. So everything's caked up and the ground is hard, and therefore it is not being absorbed when it rains.
Right.
And they've had, a whole year and more's worth of rain in just in a few days. Fortunate those storms didn't happen during the Cup, Chris, actually, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and Rick Banner talking about planes, Planes. I guess that's funny. It is. It's sad, but it's funny, or funny but sad. Yeah, I saw a note on Facebook. Congratulations to Ted Ryman, who's now got another grandchild. I think it's his second, Gordon. I think it's his second. Ted will tell us. But it's not his first. That's what I took away from his picture on Facebook, holding the little baby this morning. Congratulations, Ted Ryman. Sad news also since our last show. Quincy Jones, who was one of the most famous and best record producers, songwriters, actors, and so on here in this country, he has passed away. He did some work not only with Michael Jackson and some other famous people, and
Frank Sinatra.
You're right. I didn't know that, but when I was
and that album of his was.
Which album? Okay, now you brought it up. Now you got to come up. You got to come up.
I have it.
You do.
Yeah.
Well, he also did some. He wrote some songs for the Olympics, 1984, which was my first kind of. I didn't meet him. It was my first connection to him. But he has passed away, age what, 92, I think. 91, and may he, Quincy Jones, rest in peace.
But his music will live forever.
Forever. Bravo Zulu to the Australian Sailing Team of the Year.
Yay.
Our Fozy, Olivia Price and her crew, Evie Hazeldine. Bravo Zulu to them. That came through overnight from Alistair Murray. They're having their awards down there. They've had their awards in Australia. By the way, in Singapore, the World Sailing Awards, the annual awards are out. We'll cover those on Friday's show. Speaking of other things in Australia, what are we celebrating today, Julia?
The birth of Apple Computer.
No, is that today?
Yep.
I didn't know that. But there's your clue. There's a clue there.
Horse racing.
What kind of horse racing?
Oh, let's see. Oh, the Melbourne Cup.
The Melbourne Cup is,
of course,
it's now Wednesday the 6th down there, but on Tuesday, the whole country comes to a stop. It's a thrilling event that captures the attention of people across Oz, known as the, quote, the race that stops a nation. It features a high-stakes horse race held at Flemington Racecourse in Melbourne. The excitement isn't limited to the racecourse. It spreads nationwide, with many people gathering in homes, pubs, and workplaces to watch the race live on TV or online. The energy of the day is palpable as people dress up in their best outfits and hats, adding a vibrant and festive atmosphere to the celebration, which is not unlike the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not unlike that. Here, bravo Zulu to all of you. We're celebrating along with you, even though it was your yesterday. It's our today. What else are we celebrating, Julia?
Election day.
It's election day here in the USA, and I'm not going to say any more. Where's the previous slide? What happened to there? It is. But then this came through this morning from Jeff Kitson in Michigan, and he said yes. And you know, we all have these little buttons that they give you at the polls, or little stickers, I guess they are these days. I voted.
Right.
Like everybody's, because unlike Australia, speaking of Australia, it's mandatory. It's
Yes.
mandatory.
Yes.
To vote. Not here.
No.
But this looks like the early voting, which you can do now by mail for several weeks in some states.
Yes.
And it looks like the voting today is epic. There's been a lot of people going to the polls.
Yep.
So we'll see how that all plays out. We might know tonight.
We might.
But yeah, and people say, well, why do they only start counting the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots after the fact? Well, because they hope not to have to do it, because it's a cost, it's an expense, and if it's not at all close, then they call the election. They don't count those absent, because you know, if the difference in the vote is 50,000 or more, I'll call it, votes.
Yeah.
Between one candidate and the other, or various candidates, and they've only got a handful, 10,000, 5,000, 1,000 mail-in ballots or absentee ballots, and it doesn't matter, obviously.
Right.
But Jeff Kitson, thank you for that. I voted. We're not going to talk about the election, are we, Julia?
No. No.
Thriller, yes, James Frederick Bland. He did produce Thriller, which I think, to memory, is still the #1 album of all time.
Yes, maybe.
In terms of the number sold back in the album days, and probably the CD days after that. That, of course, was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Fog Machine says the name of your album, Julia, is Sinatra at the Sands, meaning the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, I assume.
I don't think it is.
Jazz Samba, the best, Killer Joe, etc. R.I.P. Quincy, that's from Fritz Mueller down in Miami. And Jeff Moxham also congratulating Olivia and Evie. Yeah, we're very happy about that. Not surprised. Fozy strong, Rick Banner was saying.
Great.
The audio is clipping for you. Is it clipping for anybody else? We can take a little bit of an adjustment on that. I hope it's not clipping. Melbourne Cup. I don't see any signs of clipping here in the studio, other than my fingernails, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Guy Fawkes Day. Fritz Mueller saying, where's Guy Fawkes Day? Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. By the way, there's a picture of Jeff Kitson. I pulled off his Facebook page today. But it is also Guy Fawkes Day, Julia.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about in a moment. I saved that for this day in history. We also are celebrating, as always, our supporters, our patrons via Patreon. We appreciate very much a few bucks a month from many of you. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. It's deeply appreciated. And of course, my program note, I hate the time change. I don't care if we stay on standard time year-round or if we stay on daylight time. Summertime is most of the rest of the world calls it. But we switched over the weekend on Sunday. I don't know about you, Julia. I'm still jet-lagged.
I'm still waking up at 4 o'clock.
Well, that's from doing all those watch parties.
That's right.
Whatever we did.
No affiliation with.
But we did change times on Sunday. We returned to standard time. So especially those of you who are on here, you figured it out. But if you're watching in replay, we will be going live at 1300 standard time, Pacific Standard Time, for the next 5 months until we go back on daylight time in March. And in the meantime, that means London 2100 is when we go live, 2200 Central European Time, 0800 now in Sydney, now that they are on summertime. Likewise in Auckland, it's 10 a.m. in the morning the next morning for Sydney and Auckland. That's a quick guide to when we go live at 1300 Pacific Standard Time here in the U.S. of A. A guide to putting your clock back. The smartphone, leave it alone. I had this on my Facebook page. It got lots of comments. Sundial, you move the one house to the left. The oven, you'll need a master's in electronic engineering or a hammer. And the car radio, Julie, is not worth.
Not worth.
I leave my car radio on standard time. It's now my car radio.
Is it now
in
right?
the X3 is now correct. It's now correct for the next 5 months. But this funny came through from Bannero. Finally managed to adjust the clock on the stove. Speaking of hammers, he apparently got a bigger hammer. And Bannero sent that, Rick sent that through. Thank you very, very much indeed. Okay, that gets us through the preliminaries. What happened on this day in history, Julia, on the 5th of November, 1605?
Oh, 1605.
That was the aforementioned. We just talked about it.
Oh,
There's your clue.
Guy Fawkes Day.
This is a famous painting. Is that a Monet? Who painted that? Somebody will know.
I don't know.
But that is that painting of Guy. And Guy Fawkes wasn't even really the leader of the pack. He's the one who got the day named after him. But Guy Fawkes Day, this day in history, 5th of November, 1605, 419 years ago. And when we used to go to London for the world's, what was then IYRU and ISAF meetings, always the first week of November, they used to be held always in London. Now this week they're in Singapore because they now move them around the world. But we'd always be in London the first week, and we'd put our little red poppies on because it was Remembrance Day, Remembrance Week.
Yeah.
And also Guy Fawkes Day and the fireworks and the burning in effigy and the piles and so on.
Right.
So we learned about that as Yanks and others from around the world going to London the first week of November every year, which was good fun. And of course, it is celebrating, remembering the Catholic conspirator Guy Fawkes, who attempted to blow up King James I in the British Parliament. Plot discovered, Guy Fawkes caught. The torture they did to these guys too was brutal, and later executed along with 7 others. Celebrated ever since this Guy Fawkes Day, where his effigy is traditionally burned on a bonfire, accompanied by fireworks, as you Brits and others would know. It's celebrated actually widely, at least within the Commonwealth. So thank you for that. We may have a little note about that at the end of the show as well, Julia.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of Brits, how about our regular report for the Coaching Corner with John Emmett from Great Britain with some sad news about his original sailing club.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. First of all, I'm going to break the fourth wall. For those who haven't been paying close attention, this is my little DJI mic, and nothing's changed. The kitten's paw has always had a bit of a white top, and the idea of that kitten's paw is purely to get rid of any wind noise, because hopefully when we go sailing we go to windy venues, which brings me on to my current location, if people can guess, because there's a very important vote going on. No, I'm not talking about the US elections, but Weirwood Sailing Club, and it's time for the Weirwood update. Very sad that it's come to this, but it's a democratic process, and there was a vote whether to have legal action or to close the club. The club have a special general meeting, and the vote was to close the club. And the problem is that when something's broken, it's very hard to move it forward. I know the Ilka fleet have packed up their boats and are moving to Bow Beach. Personally, I'm always the optimist, and I hope that there would be a way forward. But for now, this is the end of saga, and Weirwood really does have some incredibly fond memories. Very special place. It's much more to me than just the water, and it's not just people who come here locally to sail. You know, people would have travelled from quite a long way because of that strong community spirit. But for now, at least, that is the final Weirwood update. They couldn't reach a financial agreement, so the club voted, and that's the way it is. On a happier note, it made me think back on what it is that I love about sailing. And for me, I think the biggest thing is being part of a community, part of a family, if you like. And in terms of coaching, I really believe the squad system works very well. And I was lucky when I grew up, there was lots of good sailors right here at Weirwood, and that's what enabled me to progress the way I did. Like lots of keen, kind-minded people. I don't think there's necessarily a magic number in a squad because it can be harder to coach 3 people of huge difference in ability than it is of 10 very closely matched sailors. I'm not a big fan of one-to-one coaching. I think you need to work with a group, and with 2 it's very easy to end up with a match race. By definition, one person wins and loses every training, exercise or race you do, and to a certain extent 3 people you end up with piggy in the middle. So maybe the golden number is starting around 4, but we have a 4-year cycle going forward now with the Olympic Games, so it's a container ship getting all those things in place and trying to get up to full speed. If you're not following or not getting the success you drive by following the correct procedure, don't change what you're doing. It just takes more hard work and dedication, and I guess that motivation, you know, it has to come from the sailor, and you have a very quick learning at the beginning of your career, but it always tends to taper off, so you get that diminishing return. It can take years and years to get to the very front of the fleet. And here, Weirwood, this is where I started, I guess, 30 years ago, and again, very sorry that it came to this.
Okay, we are too, and we've been talking about it. The members tried to get their group together financially, fiscally, because apparently whoever owns that reservoir, there is a property owner and owns also, the club's been leasing that land, and I don't know whose building that is, but nonetheless, John started out there, as he said, 30 some odd years ago, and the club has voted to shut down, and they'll figure something out, because there's a group of sailors, and as you all know, sailors are very resourceful, very clever, and they will join another club. I mean, it does happen. It's happened here in the States through the pandemic. Some clubs fell on hard times and shut down and amalgamated with others, and hopefully they will as well. So, John, thank you for that report. That, of course, is the Coaching Corner. John Emmett, sailing in the UK and beyond, our worldwide man of mystery. It's around the world more than just about any of us, the possible exception of Andrew McIrvin and Andrew Pindar, Julia.
Yeah.
Get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett. Speaking of elections, we're not going to dwell on the U.S. presidential election, but as J. Frederick Bland is reminding us, U.S. Sailing has just elected a new president. We'll, at some point, he's the guy I sailed against as a kid growing up, and we'll get him on the show hopefully at some point. Henry Brower is his name, lives up in the Northeast. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's some things in progress, some things in motion, Julia, that I hope are really good for U.S. sailing, for our future Olympic effort and beyond. And I don't know a lot about what's going on, but I hear bits and pieces from the West Coast, from the East Coast, from people who are in those meetings and are trying to pull back together all the money and the enthusiasm and the expertise of the Paul Kayard America One Racing crowd with the NGB status and the well-meaning hearts of gold that are involved with U.S. sailing going forward. So they have the NGB, the national governing body of our sport here in the U.S., and hopefully those two groups can get back together and have something credible for this. I mean, the other point John has made, I don't know if he made it in this video or in the last one, but he's also made the point that, remember, we had a 5-year Olympic quadrennium when the Olympics were postponed for a year from 2000 to 2001. Right. Is that right? Yeah. And then we had a 3-year quadrennium, not 2000, but from 2020, it was postponed to 2021. Then we had a 3-year quadrennium's the wrong word, but an Olympic cycle from 2021 to 2024. We've just come through that. And now we're back to a normal, we hope, 4-year cycle. It's an important point, and a 4-year cycle is really short in terms of Olympic prep, and it really takes minimum 8 years these days for an athlete, for a sailor, to get ready to do that.
Can you imagine the planning, especially at the age they are, for that time and money?
Well, exactly, and that's why it's such a huge undertaking.
Yeah,
a massive undertaking, and as you say, a massive planning effort and a massive commitment.
Yes, it's hard to say, oh yes, I will devote the next 8 years of my life to doing that.
And you and I are going over to St. Francis tomorrow night.
Yes.
We are celebrating our Olympians. The team that won the bronze medal, Hans Henken and his, I'm forgetting the name, somebody will help me in the comments. They're being celebrated tomorrow night at St. Francis, along with John Kostecki and his crew, Austin Sperry, who won the Star Worlds. And I had John Kostecki at the Stag Cruise, and he spoke and spoke beautifully with Andrew McIrvin on the Friday morning keynote on the Lighthouse Steps. And we're celebrating tomorrow night John Kostecki, homegrown here in the Bay Area, the St. Francis Yacht Club and beyond, as well as other top sailors of the year.
Yes.
And it's good that clubs do that.
Yes.
And it's not a fundraiser for the club. It's just to celebrate. It's just a joyous occasion, right?
Right.
And we'll go.
Yes.
Okay. I think SF is now majority male. Oh, they're talking about the U.S. elections. I voted, I think Julie Ahrens is saying. Yeah, they're all talking about mail-in ballots and so on. Don't forget Quincy Jones produced this. You know what? There's just too many things to mention, Graham Sweeney, that he produced. But he also, what's the kid's name in the UK who is the latest phenom? I follow him on YouTube, and every now and then I'll post something of his on my Facebook page.
I don't know.
Young musician who's gone live and he's wildly popular around the world now. What's the guy's name? Young Brit, who Quincy Jones picked up and put under his arm.
Oh, I read about that, but I don't remember his name.
4 or 5 years ago now. Somebody will remember what his name is, and we're celebrating him. It might as well be Swing. Most ovens and microwave.
Ian Barrow.
No, Ian Barrow. Barrow is the skipper. Oh my gosh, look at all the comments.
Yeah.
Look at there's just many. Henry Bauer lives next door to Chris Exley in Marblehead. Yeah, he's up in the Northeast. He's in Marblehead, Mass. J. Frederick Bland is saying, my big hope is that U.S. sailing will jettison all the expense and peripheral activities and focus on racing and Olympic development and fixing the offshore situation. Couldn't agree more. J. Frederick Bland, Boomer Bland, as you know. IOC needs to stabilize the format in boats. Yes, I think they are. John Emmett will tell you that in Singapore, they're going to confirm the current group of boats, we all think. And by the way, if you're involved over there in Singapore or your federation is, we urge you to vote for our friend from Belgium.
Rogi?
Yes, Roga. Jackie Roga was the president of the IOC, and this is his son, Philippe Roga, who is running for president. We featured him. We didn't have him on the show, but we talked about him on the show the other day when we had the class manager of the NACRA 17 and the 49er and the 49er FX class manager from Vancouver was live on the show. And we appreciated it very much. He withdrew, actually, as president, and then through his support to Philippe Roga. And that was much appreciated as well. So mail-in ballots for Singapore, I don't think so.
I looked at the other comment, which mail-in ballot, I thought it was mail-in Burnham.
Okay, Rick Bannerow. There it is. Chris Exley's got it. Ding, ding, ding. The young British musician is Jacob Collier.
Gosh.
That guy he can sing. He has perfect pitch, one thing, but as so do a lot of people. Claire Harrington, I think, has perfect pitch, or nearly so.
Yeah.
Or at least perfect relative pitch. But the kid can sing in half tones.
Ooh. He
is so good, and he composes these amazing harmonies. Jacob Collier, and he was at he was at the Jazz Festival in Montreux in Switzerland at the end of the lake. And Quincy Jones was there, and he heard this kid, took him under his arm, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and has helped make Jacob Collier into a big deal. We'll have to make Jacob Collier into a sailor.
Well, that's probably a good idea.
Okay. Hi, guys. Krasimir Naumov joining. Vote for Roga. Blake Middleton agrees.
Yeah.
I hope Krasimir agrees as well. John Emmett says yes. For stability, I hope Lee continues one more term. He wants to see the Chinese president, continue. I don't necessarily agree. I hope that Philippe Roga will interrupt his second term and will prevent his second-year term. One here is Jacob was born with a banjo. I don't know if Jacob plays a banjo, but he plays everything else. The kid's amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's carry on with our beloved sport and do a Bravo Zulu here. J. Frederick Bland, I hope your sound's not clipping, or if it is, I think it's at your end. I don't see anyone else with the problem, and I don't see it here. Henry is a tip-top sailor. Rebecca and Henry Brower, the new president of U.S. Sailing, and a hell of a guy. Remember him from Tufts days. Yes, he did sail at Tufts. He's a jumbo. Glad he is at the helm of U.S. Sailing. I might rejoin. I sailed against Henry as a kid, too. He's a little younger than I, but he was a hell of a good sailor, and I always enjoyed him. There are some people who are not happy about some of the things he's done on the board and as a vice president, but we'll see how he does. And we'll hope to get him on the show and have him give us his vision and his view of reality and what his platform is going forward, speaking of elections. Bravo Zulu, to what was going on in Bermuda this past weekend, both the Gold Cup and the Aspen Women's event. There was the women's event, which is now was sponsored by a company called Aspen, and then there was the Bermuda Gold Cup, which is open technically, but it was mostly men, maybe all men. I'm not quite so sure. But suffice to say, after we had James Pleasance on Friday, and Julia, you thought that was one of our best. You said,
I did.
You came off the air.
Yeah.
You said, that's our best show ever.
Yep.
You liked it.
I did.
I think all our shows are croutonic. I just think some are less less croutonic than
Well,
others.
that's your job, because that inspires us to make each one better.
You know what I liked
What?
was when Andy Cox, who was there in the building, and you
Oh,
heard
yeah.
James say to him on the air, and Andy was commenting on here, and he said, hey, come on in here. I'm in such and such a room.
Yeah.
And then he cuddled up next to James. We had the two of them on the air, and that was, in fact, Andy Cox has just commented, we have a saying at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club, sponsors make it possible, volunteers make it happen. And boy, do we have some great volunteers. It's like running a regatta with your family, and we are not always on the same tack, but by the end of the week, we are all on the finish line. Could not said it. That is, we're going to enshrine that, Julia.
Yes.
What a fabulous quote from Andy Cox at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club.
Yes.
Gordon Smith, I'm just waiting for Tom to simulate marital relations on his fluffy microphone. Tom or John? That would be a vote winner. On his, we call that a, what did he call it? A kitten. John used a little bit different expression than we do. And we call it a dead cat here in the U.S. And you have not a dead cat, but on your mic, you've got a plosive, you've got a little foam device there, but a dead kitten or a dead cat is what we call it.
Yeah.
He called it a fuzzy something or another.
Fuzzy kitten?
I don't know. I sailed on an IOD in Bermuda, very wet in the sporty conditions that day in the Great Sound. Chris actually is saying, yeah, the IOD's classic, beautiful yachts, which was a one design made, a yacht designed as a one design after the 6-meter class, your favorite class, Julia.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, there's a lot of great comments. Blake Middleton agreeing with Andy Cox. How well said that. I'm going to read that again. That was such a good quote. Let me go up and get that again.
Yep.
From Andy Cox. I don't know if it's gone off the top of the screen by now, but it is. But I've still got it here. And he said, have I lost it now? No, I've got it here. Mark Holland's still at seas, nearing Nassau. Love sailing, but I'm getting sick of the ocean right now.
Here it is.
You want to read it?
We have a saying at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club, sponsors make it possible, volunteers make it happen. And boy, do we have some great volunteers. It's like running a regatta with your family. We're not always on the same tack, but by the end of the week, we're all at the finish line.
Exactly. And you can talk about what goes on, Julia, as we look at that PIP, the picture-in-picture, actually, that pink building in the back is the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club, and these boats, these are the IODs, obviously, that are used for the regatta over on a pier, on a dock. But you can talk about the same thing about every regatta we can think of, whether it's the Sydney Hobart, whether it's the Newport Bermuda, the big offshore races take a ton of volunteers, or whether the Governor's Cup down at Balboa Yacht Club, or the Congressional Cup, the granddaddy of all these big match racing events, where they get 300 plus volunteers to run that, and it's been going on for 60 plus years, and it's a big deal, and it's a lot of fun.
Yes,
and it is socially, what's the word I want? Prestigious, or socially, what's the word I want, Julia? Help me out. Prestigious is the wrong word. It's socially not only acceptable, but it's, come on.
Royally inviting.
Yeah, well, it's all those things. I can't remember what it is. It's.
I did have a flash after last week's show, because my one and only time inside the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club, I was escorted out.
Well, you should have been. You were a woman.
That's right. and I didn't know that.
Well, they only, back in the dark days, the women were allowed in only at certain times, and, they've since seen the light.
And I said, but I can't go out because I don't have any place else to go right now.
Of course, what they were worried about, I mean, you think about how much society has changed and how far we've come, but you being one of the first
57,
one of the first female members of St. Francis Yacht Club, right?
Right.
On your own, not as a spousal member or as a widow member, as your own member. But you think about what they were worried about was that the women of a certain reputation were going to come into the club. If we let them in, they might steal our husbands away. And even the women in those days supported keeping women out of the club when our husbands are there, except when we're all there for some kind of a Commodore's ball or something.
Yes.
The furry mic cover is also a wind muff. That was a bad segue. Thanks, Ted Ryman. I hear Melania told Trump that he was good in bed and that she voted for him, and he believed her. Gordon Smith, who is our progressive friend in Denmark. Yarvahe says the Dinghy Club in Bermuda. Yeah, the Royal Hamilton Dinghy Club was Golden Gate Yacht Club's home away from home during the Cup there in Bermuda in 2017. Okay, enough about it. But let's get on. We're going to carry on here with this event because we do have some results. It did wrap up on Sunday. Bravo Zulu to everybody involved. It took place the 28th of October through the 3rd of November, wrapped up on Sunday. First, the women's event, the Aspen Bermuda Women's Match Racing Regatta, which was the final on the World Women's Tour as well. And it was won not by Anna Ostling, who is a Fozy. She's been on the show. I don't think we've ever had Pauline Courtois on the show, but we've had Anna on the show. She was runner-up. Anna Ostling of Team Wings from Sweden. And the winner was Pauline Courtois, whom, Julia, you and I have spent some time with here when she was racing in a World Women's Match Racing Championship here at St. Francis 3 years ago. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
But she won. It was a hotly contested event, and Pauline, by virtue of her win, also wins the Women's World Match Racing Tour 2024. So it was a double win for her. It was one win to Pauline, then one win to Anna, and then Pauline won the rubber match, and one took the thing. It was very light air. They only had first to win two, best of three on Sunday in the women's final. And Pauline won 2-1. Bravo Zulu to them. They were featured in the Royal Gazette, which, of course, is the newspaper of record in Bermuda. Pauline Courtois made sure her first visit to Bermuda was truly special as the French helmswoman won the inaugural Aspen Women's Match Racing Regatta and was also crowned 2024 Women's WMRT champ. Having already clinched the season championship heading into Sunday's finale in Hamilton Harbor, Courtois and her fellow crew claimed a second title after edging Swede Anna Ostling 2-1 in an exciting battle contested in light and shifty conditions to cap a highly successful week of sailing. Quote, "We are very, very happy and elated," Courtois told the Royal Gazette. Quote, "It was a big achievement for the team and an incredible year. The wind was very light, very shifty, so it was hard to keep the boat fast. I haven't done much match racing this year, but I have a really good team. And indeed she does. Bravo Zulu to her and her team. Pauline on top ahead of Anna. And then Leah Vogelius, I believe it's pronounced. The two Danish teams were runners-up in third and fourth, and they did the runner-up match, and Leah came out on top ahead of Christine, and then it was on down with Juliet, Sophie, and Megan Thompson, who we've had on the show. She was 8th. She had a tough regatta. So that's the women's event. Bravo Zulu to Pauline, and of course, condolences to Anna Ostling, who was runner-up. Johnie Berntsson and Eric Monine went into the final. Johnie was everybody's pre-regatta favorite. He having won this event already 3 times. Eric Monine from Switzerland was hot earlier in the week. And the Royal Gazette reports that Johnie Berntsson exploited a Monine mistake to retain the Bermuda Gold Cup. He won it for the 4th time. And Bravo Zulu to him and his crew. Here was the Inc., Sweden's Johnie Berntsson and his Berntsson sailing team of Herman Andersson, Oscar Angervall, and Bjorn Lundgren have won their 4th Bermuda Gold Cup, successfully defending their 2023 title by narrowly defeating Switzerland's Eric Monine, Capfis Swiss match racing team 2-1, also reduced to first to win 2 out of 3 in the light air on Sunday in the final match race held in the light and shifting conditions on Hamilton Harbor late Sunday. Let me go back to that. After leveling 1-1 in the first 2-point finale, the winning moment came down to the last 20 meters of the 3rd race, with Berntsson holding a slim lead while carrying a penalty. Berntsson had a penalty he had to exonerate before he crossed the line. In a decisive move, Berntsson successfully forced a penalty on Monine, clearing all penalties and crossing the finish line first to secure the title. Rounding out the podium is New Zealand's, and our Fozy has been on the show a number of times. Nick Egnott Johnson and his Knots racing team. So he ended up on the podium as well in 3rd, winning the Petit Finale against the American. I'll come to that in a moment. Johnie Berntsson and his team, Bravo Zulu, won over Eric Monine 2-1 in the final, and he had this to say, that is Johnie, not world number 2, had this to say about that. Quote, "It was such close racing, and we knew Eric and his team would be strong in the light wind, so we needed to perform our best," commented Berntsson. Quote, "It really came down to the last 20 meters. It was very close racing, and they gave us a good push, but we are delighted, needless to say, with the win." So Bravo Zulu also to Eric and his team in the runner-up. After a strong performance all week, a disappointed Monine reflected on their near win. Quote, "We almost had the win there and just had to grab it, but unfortunately we made one of our most careless moves of the season, so that hurts a bit."
Oh, would.
The Swiss helmsman said. Yeah, Joe Cool, excellent photo, by the way, of the winning team, indeed. Great shot of their celebration. Nice to see real match racing in IODs. Ed Worley, who likes match racing in big, heavy, slow boats. And Clark Chapin, who's not a big fan of the arms crossed photos. The 2 women had arms crossed, but at least they were smiling. And Ed Worley also mentioning the arms crossed thing. But I think we're generally getting better about that as a sport. I certainly hope so. There's the runner-up match. This is Chris Poole and Nick Egnott Johnson, Nicky J, as he's known widely and warmly in the sailing world, young guy from New Zealand, and a good friend by now. Chris went down 2-0 in the Petit Finale to Nick. And Chris is the world number 1, or was. I don't know how this affects the world rankings, but of course, they have an event coming up in December in Shenzhen in China.
Oh, yeah.
The World Match Racing Championship. And we'll see how that all goes. And we'll see then if Congressional Cup, who they invite. And hopefully they will take that under advisement until this event in Shenzhen this year happens, rather than getting their invitations out too quickly.
Yes.
Although it takes time. I mean, events, I think, in April, and it takes time for people to get their sponsors and their flights and so on. So maybe they'll save a slot just in case.
Or do both.
Lily is still hoping for a wild card. She has taken up match racing. John Emmett's wife, Golden Lily,
Yeah.
Lily Zhu. We hope she gets more involved in that too.
Yeah, that would be great.
So what else there in the comments? I guess nothing else. Just finally one more picture here of these guys at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club with their $25,000 check. And of course, the Bermuda dollar and the U.S. dollar, they peg the Bermuda dollar to the U.S. dollar, which is, I think, wise of them. So it's easy for tourism from the U.S. as well as for Brits visiting. A lot of Brits go to Bermuda. There's the final overall placings for the men: Johnie, Eric, Nick, Chris. And then our Fozy Cole Tapper was 5th. David Hood from Long Beach Yacht Club, whom I have met but I don't really know very well, and our longtime old friend Gavin Brady, who's really the senior serious guy now on that circuit, with whom I did several cup campaigns. Gavin Brady, New Zealand originally, also I think now living in the U.S. again. And Kelsey Durham, who was the local from the RBYC. That was the final results. Finally, Andy Cox, we want to thank you again. That is the bar here, our little bar at the Beach Street Yacht Club, which is now adorned by 2 bottles. Well, one bottle was open, so it's in the fridge, Julia. And the other bottle and the Gosling's rum are on the bar here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. And you had a Dark and Stormy in honor of Andy and of the Bermuda Gold Cup and the Aspen Cup.
Yes.
On Friday.
Yes.
And you lived to talk about it.
And poured with this steady hand.
A heavy pour. It was a heavy pour.
It was.
I was being egged on by all the foes. You said half and half. I poured it
I know
right,
you did.
right here on the desk.
Yes.
And I said, how much? I poured it half and half because that's what they were saying I should
know.
do. What was wrong with that?
Oh, it was fun.
Andy says to serve it over plenty of ice and a slice of lime, easy on the rum. The king of cocktails, Yarabahe is calling it. I think a lot of sailors would agree. Dark and Stormy, Goslings, and rum and ginger beer.
I'll admit to enjoying good rum, and hate to have the taste of it ruined by anything else.
You want me to go get you some more right now and pour it into your coffee? We can't put it in the coffee. We could get some of Clayton Embley's bourbon cream and put in your coffee.
I don't need either of them
You
at the
don't?
moment.
Jody Shields says it's the best rum in the world. Graham Sweeney is saying, yeah, we all said, get her slosh. I bet you can't mail ginger beer and rum to Denmark, Gordon Smith. Uh-oh, he's asking for a bottle. But it came here in good shape.
It did.
Delivered on our front stoop. Thanks again, Andy Cox. We appreciate that very much.
Oh, and Claire Harrington said that John said it was a kitten's paw.
Kitten's paw. I don't know about. He's just being. John is supremely polite.
This is Claire.
We call it a.
Claire Harrington said that.
Yeah. She called it a kitten's
Yeah.
paw. Okay, it's not. It's a dead cat. Everybody in the audience. Somebody else made a comment up on Bob about in the audio world, but we'll go back and read that in replay.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's
Graham Sweeney.
What'd he say? No, it was Ryman. Oh no, that was a mildly sexual comment from
Yes.
Graham Sweeney. Let's carry on here, Julia, shall we?
Please.
We got another Bravo Zulu. This we talked about this on a couple shows ago, but the OK Dinghies, when we were talking about the IQ foils being in Palma, a lot of action in Palma this time of year. In fact, year round. But the OK Dinghy Europeans just wrapped up. They had a big gathering, big fleet there. And that wrapped up in Palma at the Real Club Nautico on, I believe, Sunday. And I have a video from day 4. This is the day going into the final day of racing. And the leader, it looked like we knew who was going to win, but this video also features him. Have a look, and then we'll tell you about the finals.
Okay, so we were delayed on shore for about an hour, maybe a little bit less, and 11:30 or so the D flag went up, headed out. It was looking sort of marginal, and we probably attempted 3 or 4 starts with the wind moving around to the right, and ended up on a black flag. Then had a 20-minute postponement or so, and then we finally got underway on a black flag start. was probably got a little bit of a left shift, just enough to get over the fleet. There's probably a little bit of bias on the line, and that was somewhat of the race from there. It was still a massive battle, especially in the head, all the way around the course. I had a lot of Swedish guys on my tail all the way, and yeah, really happy to come away with the win.
Robert Deves, who is the class manager for the OK Dinghy and a few others, the 5.5 and the Finns and so on, sent through that video.
Incredible.
That was the day before the last day of racing. Now, this guy, Luke, who is a Kiwi, and he won, and it's the first time that a non-European has won this OK Dinghy Europeans. I mean, the class is growing.
Yeah.
And J. Frederick Bland is involved in the class here in the States. And Luke Deegan won the 2024 OK Dinghy Europeans. And it was the first time they had a major championship of the class in Spain. So bravo Zulu to all involved. Luke Deegan from New Zealand has won the 2024 Europeans in Palma after a shortened week of challenging conditions with only 4 races completed. Britain's Charlie Cumbly took silver with Nicholas Edler from Sweden, took the bronze. 82 sailors from 14 countries took part in what was the first ever OK Dinghy International Championship in Spain. So bravo to Luke and to Charlie. There's Charlie Cumbly, who's been a class perennial leader. He was in the runner-up slot. There are the rest of the winners, and they had masters and youth and so on. And there are the top 10 in that championship, and a terrific event to have such a big turnout.
Yes, it's just amazing.
Class.
And the video of that.
Well, it's leaders in that class. It's people in New Zealand, in Australia, in Europe, here in the States. As I mentioned, our Fozy Boomer Bland is involved in that. And they make things happen. As we keep saying on this show, how important it is to have spark plugs, to have leadership in the sport, and it does make a difference.
It does.
Gosling's is next, Fog Machine says. Safeway, did I lose that comment? Yeah, it's up above. Safeway is our local big grocery chain, is now carrying seasonal eggnog, Christmas eggnog. Had some in the coffee this morning. We'll try it with Gosling's next in his eggnog. Uh-huh. Okay, and everybody wants, they're all begging Andy Cox to send them some. Maybe we could make money here, Julia. We should
franchise it.
We should get all this booze that we're being sent here. Maybe we should get a warehouse and get a lot of it, and then we could sell it to the Fozy and make money. Huh?
Yes.
I don't know.
Fozy International.
Booze International. Andrew Pindar. Hello, Mr. Pindar. The World Match Racing Tour, of which his company has been a sponsor on and off, and of different sailors, including Ian Williams. The World Match Racing Tour, he says, remains one of sailing's premier properties, though not getting the recognition it deserves. Mainly using local boats of various vintage, it ticks the environmental sustainability boxes in heavy ink, because they're not shipping stuff all over the world. Mm-hmm. And it has always welcomed mixed crews, besides relaunching now a women's series. I couldn't agree more, Andrew. You agree, right, Julia? With that sentiment. Bravo, Zulu. Indeed. Jody Shields, I bet you can't mail a pallet. Oh, God. Mm-hmm. Kitten's paws back. Look at all the comments. Ilka Sailor. John Emmett is taking some credit a little bit for the Ilka class because Luke is an Ilka sailor, or was. That was a nifty video. Håkan Håkansson agrees. Yeah, I like that video as well.
Yes.
Now, look, there's St. George's Chapel Choir on Facebook. I don't know if that's Claire Harrington, because she used to play the organ. She was the head of the music department at St. George's. And you know where St. George's is. That's the private school there in Middletown, which is the next town up, right. Aquidneck Island from Newport, Rhode Island. And she, Claire Harrington, the vice commodore, was the musical director and the organist at the chapel there at St. George's when I was the assistant hockey coach. I didn't know her,
Yeah.
although she played at a funeral that I'd flown in from Europe for. Den grabbing the frame. Lots of this. I'll tell you, Denmark continues to punch over their weight. The small country with a superb sailing, going back for many, many years, but also the Netherlands as well, another small country. Blake Middleton used to race OK dinghies. There was an OK dinghy manufacturer down in Newport Beach called Newport Boats that made the OK, and I sailed one of those as a kid at one point. Talk about way back. Rum Runners Illustrated, Graham Sweeney. What were you going to say, Julia?
No, this is not important. I was just saying I'm amazed at all the little boats you sailed.
Well, and Blake and I have talked about this. Others on the show have talked about it. John Emmett and I have talked about it. I mean, I think one of the Clark Chapin, who's on here, he and I both did this as kids. Clark's a couple of years older than I, but I think the more boats you sail, and we used to have these events, they were very popular events in the States, less so now, but you would go to race in a regional event of like the National Junior Sailing Championship, and they would have supplied boats, and you'd race a class that you didn't normally race, but you'd figure it out. Maybe you'd get a boat, get there a little early, or find one locally, sail it, and you'd learn that boat. You'd maybe never sail it again.
Right.
But you learn. So the Thistle, the Lightning, the Snipe. I had never sailed a Y-Flyer, which is a scow, and Major Hall and I showed up in Southern Illinois at the Championship of Champions, having neither of us ever sailed Y-Flyers, in a cold October, right about a couple weeks ago this time of year, in 1976. Froze our Batinskis off.
Yes.
And won.
Wow.
Having never sailed the boat and never sailed the boat since. But it was true of a lot of other people there. In fact, the class national champion was there, and we beat him too. But it's just, it's so good to go sail lots of different classes of boats.
Yeah.
And bravo Zulu to people who do that. She was accidentally signed in as the St. George's Chapel Choir. It's a small world.
Yes.
And Claire, we had a New York Yacht Club crowd here this past weekend that were sailing at St. Francis in this Grand Masters team racing. It was Newport Harbor Yacht Club, New York Yacht Club, and St. Francis. And I went over Saturday night to say hi to one of our FOSI who's probably watching, Peter McDonald. Mm-hmm. He was there representing, on the team representing Newport Harbor Yacht Club, and they won.
Did they?
Yeah, they won going away.
Yeah.
But I also then... Martha Starkweather, Altruder, and the New York Yacht Club crowd, some of whom I knew, including Martha and Sam Altruder, who, by the way, lives up in Marblehead as well. They do. So neighbors, no doubt, of Chris Fury. And is it Chris that lives up in Marblehead? So I said, hey, Martha, let's get the New York crowd together. And we did. And we'll send a picture to Claire. So we got them together in front of the media wall there in the starting line room, took a picture, and then I said, okay, I took a video. I had Alfredo take a picture of us, a video of us, and let's all say hi to Claire. And we took the video and then sent it to her. Hi, Claire. She is, and I'll blow smoke up her skirt now, but it's no mystery. She is very popular, and they're all looking forward to her being Commodore here.
I'm with good reason.
And I think with good reason. So our Fosie's about to be Commodore of New York Yacht Club if she continues to play her cards right, which by all accounts she is doing.
Yes.
So very popular. It was nice. No surprise either.
No.
Right?
She's worked so hard with so many things.
Well, she was Commodore of Edgartown Yacht Club out on the vineyard, on Martha's Vineyard. She was race committee chairman for, 6 years, 8 years. Yeah. Chairman at New York Yacht Club. It's like you being chairman of the house committee here at St. Francis.
Yeah.
And that was back when, in the 1930s?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But that was back in the 70s, wasn't it? Or the 80s? When were you house committee chairman here?
81, I think. Maybe.
It was unheard of to have a woman as female as chairman of the house committee.
And it even saved made a difference in the bottom line of $1 million, and that was impossible and not good.
You know, when I joined the New York Yacht Club
Yeah.
in 1981,
Aha.
my mother was not amused. My late great mother, whom, you know, we've had her on the show, but we had pictures of her. What do you mean you joined the New York Yacht Club? Your father and I went there in 1960 something, 66, 65, went there, and we were going to a NARU meeting, North American Yacht Racing Union, which was then our national governing body. And your dad and I and some others from our club went there to the New York Yacht Club. And the women were not allowed into the club until, like your experience at Royal Bermuda, until a certain time.
Yeah.
And then when the women, like at the Royal Yacht Squadron in England,
in another door.
you had to go in the other door.
Yep.
And it was the same door that the employees went in and out of. And my mother was not amused.
Yeah.
But, you know, they had at Royal Yacht Squadron for a long time, and I think it's changed now, but there was the strangers door, the strangers entry for non-members. Not only women who could not be members.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But there was the strangers door, strangers entrance. And in fact, New York, in the front, I think it's also all gone now, but in the front, when you walked into New York Yacht Club at 44th Street, there was a little anteroom, a little sitting area for strangers. So that if you were coming to meet a member of the club to go to dinner or go to the bar or go to an event, you sat in the strangers room. It's all changed. Thank God, Julia, it's all changed.
Yep. We're having much more fun.
Trump capsized just now, approaching the top mark on Lake Wobegon. There's Stingray, who is not a Trump fan. And Fritz Mueller, also a Tufts, All-American. He went to Tufts. He did indeed. Lots. Okay, let's get off all this stuff. And we're talking about ancient history. Claire is going to do so much. Yes, she is Graham Sweeney. Claire is already behind the scenes, working hard to make things happen and happen better, happen well in this country. She will be a leader, and we're looking forward to her ascension.
Yes.
Ted Ryman says strangers have to enter via the sewers at the squadron. I think they've changed that all now. There's the strangers room at 44th Street. Okay, let's carry on here now to the Vendée Globe, which starts this Sunday. We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but the Vendée Globe, the 10th edition, starting here on Sunday the 10th. It's, I think it's maybe the coolest offshore race going now, these big around-the-world races, even better than the ocean race. God strike me down if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Starts in Les Sables d'Olonne on Sunday, as I said, and here is a little bit longer video than we normally play, but it is so good, and by way of preview, rather than me playing 2 or 3 different videos, this is off the English language France 24, which is like Deutsche Welle in Germany, the English language channel, and I just think it's a 10-minute and change video, maybe 12 minutes long, but is a great preview, a great introduction to the Vendée Globe. Have a look.
The Vendée Globe, Everest of the seas, the greatest sailing race in the world.
It's extreme. It's about resilience and high technology.
Every 4 years, skippers set out to conquer the most hostile oceans.
It's extraordinary. It's like you're embarking on a journey out of this world.
A solo, non-stop, unassisted race around the planet that lasts nearly 3 months.
You have to be able to fix every small problem. You have to try and make sure it impacts your performance as little as possible.
A dangerous yet thrilling adventure. How do sailors live up to the challenge? Reaching for your dreams at the end of the world. It may seem exciting, but it's an extremely difficult goal to achieve. Since the creation of the Vendée Globe in 1989, just over half of participants, 57%, have managed to finish the race. Before the competition even begins, there is one crucial step: delivery. Louis Berntsson left Saint-Malo in Brittany to sail his boat to the starting line.
These are the final tests, and it's very important because it's the last time we're going to make any adjustments to the rigging, the lines, the boat before the race starts.
T'as essayé un +10, -10, machin? Et ce bazar-là, c'est scotché ensemble? On se connaît, on vit
We know each other well.
tous ensemble depuis.
We've been working together on this race for several years. I wanted to invite people I wanted to spend time with. So 2 friends joined in, and then we had some drinks and some snacks, as we would if we were on a cruise. It was a very special moment for us.
Final moments of companionship before being totally alone 24/7 for almost 3 months. The 45,000-kilometer route goes from Les Sables d'Olonne, heads south along Africa, then east passing 3 capes, before heading back to France along South America. Louis Berntsson knows this journey well. The 39-year-old skipper is taking part in the Vendée Globe for the 4th time. He finished 3rd in his last attempt. Equipped with one of the best boats in the fleet, he's seen as a top contender.
So if I want to go a little more to the left, I press here. This is the autopilot command. Here I can decide to go 1 degree left, 1 degree right, 10 degrees. That's the attack mode, the head mode, meaning compass, and this is for the wind. It's an adult's dream, actually, because as a child, I never imagined I'd one day reach this level of competition. I used to watch races like the Vendée Globe with awe. It was motivating for me, but I grew up far from the sea, so I never thought I'd reach this level. I've dreamt of winning this race for a few years now. For me, it's one of the hardest races, so I'd like to win it someday.
But the competition is fierce. For the first time, 39 other skippers are up against him, including 6 women.
I'm going to go on the right because it's smaller over there.
Clarisse Kremer is embarking in her 2nd Vendée Globe. Dropped by her previous sponsor after getting pregnant, she is now backed by the cosmetics company L'Occitane en Provence. This is the final stretch before D-Day.
Right now I'm supposed to be doing sports or physical preparation, but today the conditions are great for surfing. I'm not an experienced surfer, but when the conditions are good, I enjoy it, and it feels awesome. It allows me to do 2 things at once, physical training and chilling out. Overall, I feel pretty good. I'm not too stressed and I'm pretty happy about setting off. Although I do feel like I'm somewhat, not fragile, but if something goes wrong, I quickly get nervous because I think the general stress level is quite high. Once you've left, no one can come to give you something you might have forgotten. So that's it, really. Lots of to-do lists, to try not to forget anything.
At the starting village, the docks are packed. In the weeks leading up to the race, more than 2 million visitors come take a peek at the boats. In just 35 years, the event has become a global reference, requiring flawless organisation. Hubert Lemonnier leads the control post.
Waouh! C'est les albums Panini? Ah ouais, génial. Moi, j'ai pas eu. Merci.
Our job is to track all the boats 24/7 from the first to the last. We're making sure that their course and speed match their intended destination. We've got to be ready to respond in case there's a need for a rescue operation in a perilous situation. We'll spend 3 months here in this office. The team works 6-hour shifts. We swap, but even off shift, we still keep an eye on what's going on.
Over the years, technological advancements have turned these boats into Formula Ones of the sea. The monohulls are 18 meters long and can reach a speed of up to 70 kilometers an hour. During their preparation, skippers and technicians meet every day. On board L'Occitane, based in England, Clarisse Kremer works on the final details.
It would be great to have a big picture of my pilot system on a sheet of paper in like technical terms, but not too technical terms, like kind of my terms.
This is my bed. It's custom made for me. It's just my size, it's comfortable on a flat or cushy surface, and yet it holds really well, because the boat moves a lot and my body needs to be able to relax totally. That's what it's for. It's also waterproof, because sometimes I go to my bunk a bit damp or wet.
Clarisse can count on the support of her partner, Tanguy Le Turquet. He too is a skipper, and he'll be taking part in his first Vendée Globe. The couple has a daughter, Mathilda, born almost 2 years ago.
It's tough for us because she's turning 2 soon. She's growing up so fast, changing every day. The hardest thing for both Clarisse and me is knowing that we're going to miss out on 3 months of her life, where she'll be learning new things. And when we get back, she'll be a completely different little girl. We're losing out on 3 months. For me, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, same here. If something happens to my daughter, it'll be very hard psychologically to cope with being so far away. I could find myself far from any coast, and it might take a long time for me to get back to shore.
The race is tough psychologically and physically. For nearly 3 months at sea, the skippers are left to fend for themselves, far from any land.
This race is all about the adventure. It's non-stop, unassisted. So every small or big problem we might face, we have to be able to fix them. We have to try and make sure it affects our performance as little as possible.
The risks are high. In a storm, the boat could capsize. A string of tragedies have occurred in the past. 3 sailors have lost their lives. And in case of injury, the skippers are on their own. A medical kit is compulsory on board, meticulously checked by the race doctor, Laure Jacolot.
The most common medical issue encountered in offshore racing is skin problems, infections, rashes. This is due to the specific nature of this race. Skippers experience a wide range of atmospheric conditions, from high humidity to extreme cold in the deep south. On land, antibiotics aren't used so often, but at sea, they're almost always necessary.
Before the competition, skippers receive medical training, learning skills for emergency situations. Every sailor knows the story of Bertrand de Broc, who had to stitch up his own tongue after an accident at sea, something these adventurers need to be prepared for.
During medical training, we teach them how to perform certain procedures as if they were doctors. They have to be ready to handle things alone, like stitching up wounds. Their pain tolerance is very different from people on land.
So much to deal with, and not much time to rest.
Sleeping has a huge impact on their performance in offshore racing. It's actually the first thing they work on in their preparation. It's very well known, a good offshore sailor needs to be able to fall asleep under stressful, isolated and lonely conditions. For now, we have very little data on their sleep patterns in offshore racing, on how they actually sleep and for how long. They're still learning from their own experiences. Hallucinations occur regularly too. Some tell us they can smell fresh bread on their boat, as if there was a baker making bread nearby. It happens a lot.
Returning home safely, determined to make waves in the history of sailing. 40 skippers will take part in this 10th edition of the Vendée Globe, trying to break the record of 74 days for a solo, round-the-world sailing adventure.
The Vendée Globe captures people's imaginations because it's so extreme. It's a symbol. It's also about freedom. To me, it's like French astronaut Thomas Pesquet going into orbit, like astronauts going out for a 3-month mission. The next time they see any human being will be when they come home.
We have the freedom to choose our route. There are no red lights, no green lights, no turn signals. There's a lot of freedom. Of course, there are constraints, as we're on a sailboat in the ocean. But we are totally free to decide our path.
When you're in the middle of the Pacific, near Point Nemo, the furthest point from any land, you think, what on earth am I doing here? It's quite extraordinary. It's like you're embarking on a journey out of this world. You can tell that humans aren't meant to be there. There are moments that are breathtaking, even scary, where you feel a mix of awe and fear at the vastness surrounding you. And I think that's what keeps us going, in something as crazy as a solo round-the-world adventure.
How was that for a cool video?
Oh, yes.
I just found that this morning. I had 2 or 3 little videos I was going to play, and then I just happened to go check France 24 because I've used them before. I'm a subscriber to that channel, and the problem is you get so much stuff that has nothing to do with yacht racing. In fact, nothing to do with anything I'm interested in.
Right.
Like if you're subscribed to stuff.co.nz or to NBC or anything else.
Yeah.
But they cover this race, and I think that was one of the best videos ever.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
And now, see, look, you're leaning to the right. You got to lean back. There you go. So I think Clark Chapin had it. I would say that you can't conquer the oceans. You can only battle them to a draw. At the end of the race, the oceans are still there, and if you're lucky, you are too.
What a nice, yes.
And look at the hundreds of comments we've gotten. Great, amazing event, great video. Alistair Murray agrees. I don't know, Stingray, if there's any multis. I think it's just these Imokas. I think it's the Imoka 60s, right? Chris Exley is agreeing. Yeah, super video.
Yeah.
That's my job on this show, is to be the curator, to find cool videos and photos and put them together in a show that makes some sense to you all, and I'm glad to hear you all thought that was a good video. I did too. So here is one of the people we're going to follow, and we did in the last one, Pip Hare, the Brit. And again, partly because she puts out a lot of video. She is putting out a lot of her own video, but she's British, so it's in English, which is a help too. And we're going to be following her on Medallia is the name of her boat or sponsor. Pip Hare from Great Britain. And here is a brief video that I also, of all the videos I looked at leading up to this show to use as a preview, this one may be the pithiest, the coolest, the best of them all.
The race requires skippers to face innumerable challenges entirely alone. With both boat and skipper descending to increasingly depleted states of exhaustion over the course of the race, they are tested and pushed to the brink of failure over and over again because Mother Nature has no favourites. Though the race is concerned ostensibly with the sport of sailing, at its core it is about surviving as a human being. Having to find solutions and the strength to fight through hard times is something we will all encounter at various points in our lives. Over the 3 months it takes competitors to do a lap of the globe, they must maintain not only the high speeds of their vessels, but also the positive attitude that will enable them to cope with physical and emotional isolation, sleep deprivation, fear, anxiety, and endless problem solving. These challenges are common to all humans in all walks of life, and they are what underlies this uniquely tough mental and physical trial.
Wow.
Exactly. Wow. That's the right answer. I didn't know what to say after that, but bravo, Zulu. That in a minute and change, I think describes what this race is about, what our sport is about in many ways. Even if you're sailing in a small boat, going offshore for, going off the beach for, a few minutes or an hour or two, you never know.
Yep.
Great stuff. Bravo, Zulu. Julia, I thought that was terrific.
I do too. And it's always hard to explain all that stuff. And you can say, oh yes, this is just 10 minutes of 3 months.
Yep. Andrew Pindar replying to, okay, they're back and forth about picking people up. Pindar, he's driving, not flying. Everybody wants to be picked up. 74, the around alone record is 74 days on a monohull, but just 40 days on a multi. Ed Worley, the more exhausted you get, the harder it becomes to make critical decisions, and that is indeed the case. So here it is. It's the I love this graphic, as I've said previously.
Yeah.
It's really a lap not only around the planet but around Antarctica. And the race record there is 74 days, 3 hours, 35 minutes and change, and that is starting this Sunday. And the race start, I kid you not, is at 13:02 Central European time. That's plus 9 hours to us.
And is there a reason for that?
I don't know. There must be. And the warning signal and the preps, I don't know. There must be a reason. There's 40 boats starting, including what? 9 women, is that right? 2 live broadcasts of the start. The bigger deal, actually, is the organization producing this first from 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. is the dock out. They leave the harbor, they go out, they celebrate each of the boats, they announce each of the boats. There's a huge crowd there, huge crowd. And I thought about covering that, in a watch party, but that's our Saturday night, and we've got other stuff going on here. But then the second is that they go live for is actually the start, which is not that interesting. They start televising it at 12:15 CET. Race starts a couple minutes after 1, and they keep going, following the boats out until 2. I don't think we'll cover that live in a watch party because it's not that dramatic. I don't think it's going to, hopefully it's not dramatic, no collisions or anything. So Julia, that's the plan. And bravo Zulu to them. Hopefully they all get around safely in under 70, some will get around in under 75 days, presumably. And some may take a hell of a lot longer if they have some breakages. Some may not make it at all.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll all at least survive to talk about it, because it is a hell of a challenge.
Yeah.
How would you like to be that couple that has a 2-year-old, Clarice Kramer, and going away from the 2-year-old for, the better part of 3 months?
Yeah.
And your husband's also out there.
Yes.
I'm sure they have a good nanny. Imagine the sea legs you develop after being on the water for that long, indeed. Okay, we're an hour and 22 minutes into this show. Let's get to the last leg, and then we'll go focus on the election here in the U.S. Those of you who are Americans, some of you want to watch it, some of you don't give a darn. But we, Julia and I, are keen observers of the passing scene, especially of current events and politics. This was a another regatta in Palma. We've been featuring Palma a lot lately, in Mallorca. And this was the One Design Swan Worlds from 6-7 days ago. Have a look.
It's the final day of the Swan One Design World Championships. By sunset, we will have crowned 3 new champions in the Club Swan 50, 42 and 36 classes. Racing will get underway from 10:30, 3 races are scheduled, and the excitement is building in the air. It's all set to unfold on the 4th and final day here in Palma de Mallorca.
I'm overwhelmed, This is only my 4th season with Club Swan, and I came to Club Swan 50 as a newcomer. Never sailed regattas before, so you can imagine how great I feel today.
I think the 42 class is very strong at the moment, and it's a pleasure to participate in all these events. I'm very proud, I'm very happy.
I was 68 when I won my first World Championship in my life, and now I'm 70 winning the second one. I think never give up, fight till the finish. We fought and we managed.
managed to keep the team strong and in the end win. So I'm happy about that.
For me, the most important thing is that my rivals are getting better and better. We have so many new people which are coming into the races. They are improving a lot, and that is obviously forcing you to improve as well. So it's much more fun.
Great class, great sailing. We'll look forward to next season.
God, I love our sport.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Yeah.
Bravo, Zulu. Terrific stuff. I don't know who won. I don't care who won. They all won.
Yeah.
Huh?
Right.
They all won. They had a great time. 3 terrific classes. As Graham Sweeney says, we ought to have a whip around.
Yeah.
We ought to charter a boat and go race in a swan somewhere, someplace. We could race in, any boat. We could go charter a J105 and come race here in San Francisco, but it'd be nice to be in the swans, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Bravo, Zulu. Nice video. Ed Worley agrees. And terrific stuff as our final. I always try to find some uplifting video for our final last leg video, and that I didn't have one until I just found that again, like a half an hour.
Serendipity
before
works.
We went to the. I keep what I do though. I'm gonna someday I'll put a show together and how we put the show together.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of subscriptions to YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And I keep checking the YouTube channels, all my subscriptions, and of course the latest videos to be posted will go at the head of the list each time I check. And when it's a sailing, sailing videos show up. And if it is not something about, technical or politics or one of the other channels, music, one of the other things I'm subscribed to, it's an easy matter to grab it. But then I can't just grab it. I'm not playing the video right off of YouTube because that would cause technical problems. I have to grab the video, download the video, and I have special software to do that, then insert it into the Keynote, which is, PowerPoint, but it's the Apple version of PowerPoint, so that it is in the slideshow and it comes at the right moment, and then I can press the button and it goes like we did for that one.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Why am I carrying on about this stuff?
Well, because it's amazing.
It's fun. And we do it because the FOSI are such a collective, fun group of people. Bravo, Zulu. The jokes notwithstanding that some of you are telling during the show. We are the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, the D Block, and we said we're going to talk a little bit about Guy Fawkes Day, another famous, lithograph about the, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, there's 7 or 8, 9 people involved in that plot, supposedly, including, he was Italian, Guido Fawkes. Did you know that, Julia?
I know.
Guido Fawkes was his real name, apparently. Guy Fawkes Day in the UK and beyond. Happy Guy Fawkes Day, if that's the right thing to say. Happy Guy Fawkes Day.
I don't know.
But then, of course, came through, one of the FOSI came through with a clever one, which is why I'm using it in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Gunpowder deliveries first right. That came through from Ryman. Who else?
Oh, yes.
I don't know who made that sign, but very clever. Apropos Guy Fawkes Day, the 5th of November in the UK. How about the next one, Julia? We're on a Ryman fest today. This also from Ted. Pink underwear, the kid says. And the lady says to Superman, he's got your eyes. It's clean.
It is.
It's clean. It didn't turn out so well for Guido, did it, Clark? He's in the comments. Black swans, white swans, swan regatta. Okay, another one here, also from Ryman. Thank you, Ted, for that one. I thought this was good. I thought this was really good. Viking explorer Thor Bob. You know how that is, if you're from Texas, they call you Tom Bob or Julia. I don't know if they call you Julia Bob. But Viking explorer Thor Bob returns home after discovering Texas. And you see what's happened there?
He grew long.
He's gotten horny. He's grew Texas Longhorns, the big cattle with the long horns, and their University of Texas football team are the Longhorns, right?
Yep.
Ted Ryman sent that as well. Now, this next one is anonymous, Julia. This one is maybe a finger wag. But it's Sea Breeze deodorant. You see that up there? This is sailing related, so I felt I could use it.
Sea Breeze, okay.
Sea Breeze deodorant. And she says, Is it the ball type deodorant you want, sir? Oh no, miss, it's for my underarms. You want to give it a finger wag or not?
It's too dumb for a figure.
Dumb? It was clever. It's from Anonymous. Okay, a couple more sailing ones. Finger wag. Stingray says finger wag. A postcard Gordon Smith says from the UK back in the day. What does he have that I don't have?
A sailboat.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
And that's from Clayton. Clayton Embley down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Over in Kentucky. And we wrap that up on a nice one, Julia, about our beloved sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not sexist.
No.
Huh? Just nice, right?
Yep.
Which gets us to the finish line. Thank goodness the finish line is here. And Julia, you like to say,
don't miss the opportunity to like, follow, and share to your friends.
Indeed, and comments are welcome, even in replay.
And there have been a big replay pickup.
There has been. I think part of that's the America's Cup people tuning in for those watch parties. 31 watch parties in less than 2 months.
Yes.
And then we did 10 additional shows. I had no idea we'd done that many shows. No wonder I was.
I'm glad we didn't know beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. And the watch party, I'll tell you what made the watch parties. The watch parties were the Zoomers. Yeah, the Fozzie, the comments, all the chat.
Yeah.
The chat. So I have to say to all of you, I was over at St. Francis last weekend, as I said, for that Grand Masters thing to see Peter McDonald.
Yeah.
And I had more from people I didn't even know.
Yeah, good.
People I didn't even know who said, "Oh, we watched your America's Cup coverage. It was so much fun." And the chat and the Zoomers.
Yes.
And people ask, what's Fozzie mean? What's Fozzie mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The Fozzie! Friends of Sailing Illustrated. I get texts, I get questions all the time.
Yeah.
We may have to put in every show, the Fozzie. Well, they wonder what the hell that is.
Maybe in the, either in the introduction or in the end, thank yous.
Well, thanks to all of you. We appreciate it, especially those of you who give us a few bucks a month to keep us on the air. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. If we managed to get through this show without saying testicle once, Jody Shields will be disappointed. I don't know what your drinking word. The Fozzie, by the way, those of you watching, the Fozzie have a drinking word, and they circulate it, and supposedly they're taking
and which we don't know.
And we don't know what it is, exactly. So who knows? Who cares? Thanks for your support, though. We do deeply care about that. It keeps the studio on the air. We've had another little adjustment that people probably didn't notice technically, and we have gotten off the air today, or will have, having dropped 0 frames, Julia.
Yay!
0 frames once again. And in a show with nearly 200,000 frames, we're doing this at 1080p 30. Frames missed due to rendering lag, 0. Frames skipped due to encoding lag, 1.
Out of 200,000?
Out of nearly 200,000 frames. So just those of you who want to nerd out, we finally got the technical side of this really ironed out. But we also want to appreciate all of you, not the squeaky bums. 0 frames dropped is like hanging chads not existing. Yeah, okay. All of you who give us audio, video, and images, let us use yours for this. Julia, final thought?
Oh, it was a great expose of the whole thing that we've been doing, the races, the big ones.
The big one, Vendée Globe especially, and
yes.
the Bermuda. You like that Bermuda Gold Cup.
I did. Well, I mean, that was that whole show. There was new people and new things.
You like James Pleasance, admit it. You like
I
Pindar, you like McIrvin, you like the Aussies, you like Alistair and Jody and all these Aussie boys and the British boys. You like Hamish Ross. Admit it. It's okay. You can admit it.
It'd be easier to list those I don't like.
Exactly.
Because there's nobody in that list.
0 frames is going to be the new drinking thing, Graham Sweet. You like the Zoomers. You like Gordon Smith. And,
yeah.
Graham Sweeney and Ed Worley.
As I said, it would be easier to list the ones I don't like, and that will be a very short list of 0.
Well, thank you, Julia. Thanks to all of you. We should have another show, just have the Zoomers on, just to come on and comment. Keep us.
Oh, that happens anyway.
We'll do that. But rather than in the chat, have them on via Zoom so that we can see them. And Graham can hold up his pillow, and Gordon can surreptitiously get a cigarette smoke on his vape or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
And Ed Worley can show us his library and on. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. Have a great rest of your week. In the meantime, go sailing. Sail fast. Oh, my God, that's loud. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now. Stingray wants us to do the Vendée Globe live.
Oh, yeah.
Stingray, we're not going to do that.
No.